Joining us today on the Everyman podcast is a multi-talented, multi-instrumentalist, Grammy-nominated bassist extraordinaire. You might know him from Nightmare Scenario. You might know him from Trioscapes. You might know him from his newest group, Disorder Assembly. But as you can see here, we love him and know him from Between the Buried and Me. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Briggs. Dan, what's up, brother?
Hey, glad to be here.
Hey, man. Thank you for joining us. We were chatting before we got going here. I think the Everyman podcast is now the first podcast to have every member of Between the Buried and Me grace us with their presence. So this is cool to finally get you on board here. And obviously, man, like I was saying to you before, we're big fans of Between the Buried and Me, big fans of yours. But first question we always ask, man, what's up? Where are you? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm at home. I've been running around so much lately. My days, as of a couple weeks ago, kind of transitioned from just whatever the last year has been, which for me is kind of just constantly working. And once you get wrapped on one project, you kind of take a breath and then just start on another. And once it got to the point where it really felt like our tour in August was going to happen with Between the Buried and Me, and was like really, really going to happen, which really I only felt in the last month, I started, transitioning my mindset to get into work mode. Like I've been working all year, but to get out of the creative mode and into the learning just a massive stack of music. And usually I only start prepping like 2 weeks before a tour, and just slam it into my brain because I have so much going on in there. And I decided to really pace it since we're doing so much music. And I have a show on Sunday in a couple days from now. I guess by the time this airs, we'll have already played, but with my new group, Disorder Assembly. So I kind of had that in the forefront of my brain and starting to like piece up Between the Buried and Me stuff. But it's nice because, my days lately have just been kind of like ease into the day, ease into the office, spend some hours playing, but not so much that I'm just, destroying myself and going crazy and then getting out of it. And it's been a good routine, actually, to ease back into playing.
I would imagine, and let's just back up before we get distracted. This tour that's coming up is, something a little bit different for you guys, which is the Evening With format, which fans have been, clamoring for. So when you guys originally announced this, it was a big deal because it was like, dude, I'm going to see Btbam for like at least 2 hours, just slamming for 2 hours. And that excitement kind of, never went down. And you saw that with the Twitch streams when we had Dusty on recently, and we talked about, how great and how energized your fan base was to see you perform. And that, as soon as it's ready, everybody's going to be back. And like, I know, I've been seeing, the first time I saw Btbam was at the basement of the First Unitarian Church in like 2006. Mm-hmm. I've seen you with Trioscapes at the Barbary in 2012. So like in this area really is passionate about your music, for one reason or another. So there's a whole lot of excitement for that, and I'm sure your guys are stressing that. So Daryl, when he's talking about, normally, what do you play, an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 10 minute set?
Yeah, and we'd had the idea to do this Evening With kind of format of us doing 2 sets, no support bands, just us, for years now. Maybe we started talking about it on like the Coma Ecliptic tour cycle, and thought that it would actually happen, maybe on the last record. And then I think as we started inching closer to the 20th anniversary of the band, which was last year, that would be the thing to commemorate. And we went through quite a few different set variations, and we did one in Europe in 2019 now. I feel like it just happened, but that was 2 freaking years ago now. And it's not that set, but that was our first time trying it, and it was fun. It was good. It was weird, no one else in the venue except us, no one else backstage. And yeah, a long set. That one was a little shorter, but it had an ebb and a flow to it. And I think that by no means have I haven't learned all the songs yet. I'm more than halfway through. But there's definitely a flow to it,
I think that probably surprises people that even the master Dan Briggs has to relearn his own music. That's
oh well, it's
just goes to show everybody has to practice, right?
Yeah, I mean, shit. We went into the studio to record the new Btbam last November, and by that point, I'd already recorded the Disorder Assembly record, maybe 2 months before that, and before the Disorder record came together real quickly. I mean, we'll maybe talk about that in a little bit, but even before then, while we were writing the Btbam record, I was doing some things of my own. In between, because it's weird to think back now, but early on in the pandemic, I mean, maybe when like April hit, we started sharing some ideas for the new record, and we worked solidly maybe through May apart, and then the summer hit, and we just kind of, as it was really seeming like there was no hope for this thing ending, and there were no deadlines, and everything just stopped and started getting, I think everyone just kind of fell into their own worlds, like not only in the band, I think just everyone. And during that time, I started working on stuff for a couple Nightmare Scenario EPs, one that's being mastered right now, and another that I'm finishing putting together. It's more collaborative, that one, which is kind of fun. But so, you know what I mean? So it was like by the time we had gotten off tour and then started writing music, I was putting just so much into my head in between each project. And that's usually what happens in between tours, except it's usually only a month or 2 months. And, I get home from a tour, I immediately just, dump my brain, it's gone. I either jump into, opening up a session I was working on before leaving, or I've got something that's burning in my head, or someone in another group that sent me something. And I'm usually just in that mindset until, like I said, about 2 weeks before it's time to go on the next tour. And then I just hit the pause button or get things wrapped up. And then I just 100% just shove new old material back into my head, which is hard. I mean, it's because it's totally not in my brain. I mean, I wouldn't get very far humming you any of the songs that aren't on this set list.
How do you, I know you said it's hard, but how do you turn that off? Because I'm in the production field myself at NFL Films. And when I go from project to project, especially if you have more free reign to do things that are more akin to you, like, how do you just turn that off and then go right into that work? Because it's like, even for me, it's difficult. Like if I'm cutting a highlight for a particular team, and then I just came out of doing a personal project that aired on Presents or something like that I was just full bore into, like that shut down and refocus and kind of like pivoting is, how do you do it?
Well, it's one of the hardest things on like a day-to-day basis. So for me, I used to experience it so much where I'd be in it in my office all day. And I think everyone at any job experiences this. And then you find yourself in a social situation and you're disconnected, you're so in your head. And for me, that could just be like, just playing something that I was literally looping for like an hour and a half working on. And one thing that's been so nice during this time that really helps me transition out and kind of become a human again is like cooking dinner. Like for me, like honestly, a huge thing is like really taking the time, slow cooking beans, building up a meal that takes an hour or longer, and put a podcast on. I live alone, so I've listened to so many podcasts during this pandemic. Just voices going has been so nice. When it's to do with getting ready to go on tour, a lot of times I am lucky to where when I'm working on something, a song or something, it's very rare, no matter what project it is, that I don't know what state it's in, where it's going to go, what could happen. Maybe that's just, I'm 36 years old. I've been a professional musician for 16 years, writing music since I was 13 or 14. You know what I mean? So it's like, you've put in the time, and even when there is stuff that's super experimental and super out of control and it could go anywhere, I generally have like a start and finish, and kind of have an idea pretty early in the workings, within a week or two of working on a song. So usually I'm able to wrap things up, and if not, they come to a comfortable close.
Gotcha.
And it can be hard, but yeah, going into this one, I feel very good because if this tour didn't happen, if the pandemic kept it from happening in August, we wouldn't have done it this year. It would have happened next year. And if I just had the rest of the year at home, I mean, I don't think I could work, just like literally, I don't think it would be healthy to like just keep in this mindset and just drilling and drilling and drilling. And it's time to get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can totally relate to what you said about cooking. I talk about it on this podcast all the time. I'm a big barbecue guy. I've got a sweet ass smoker and a griddle, and I like to cook. And I find that like after, like you're saying, after work, it helps me, become a human. I totally can relate to that. Like, because you're having to carefully handle ingredients, and it's almost like, even if you don't want to, like, I don't want to do this, but you're going to do it, and you're going to do it the right way if you're into it. And having to be delicate and handle, and it sounds weird, but like handle fruits and vegetables or whatever you're cooking. It like softens you up and gets you back into a normal, like, okay, I can interact with my fiance like a normal person because I'm out of the high pressure insanity that I was in all day.
It's so true. And I feel like my day is like sprinkled with these activities that are bits of, mindfulness, and trying to not necessarily block things out, kind of, but to stay in what you're doing. And so when I get to that point of the day, like we're talking about, it's, like you're saying, staying focused on that activity really, really helps you, really kind of lock in and just drive that task home, which is so nice.
Right. And it helps transition you from like, I need to be structured because there's a sequence of events with cooking. And then you can also be artistic by like how you get to a certain point, you stop measuring things, what based on time, you know what I mean? Like it's the finer details of it. And I never thought about it till now about that process and how it's kind of therapeutic.
It is. It really is. Yeah.
That's awesome. So we're talking about Between the Buried and Me. I saw, obviously, by the time this comes out, you guys released a new single. The tour is coming. Fans are kind of on. I know people are excited, but I know a lot of people are, I don't know, I'm going to say confused or unsure. Do you know, or can you, or are you, is it just going to be like a full-blown concert, like normal? Like, we're back, we're good, we're here to go, temperature checks?
Yeah.
Like, what can people expect, or is that not not
you
known?
mean as far as like capacity sort of?
Yeah, like how's it all going to work?
Restrictions?
Yeah.
I don't think, because, the guarantees and everything for the tour were obviously worked out before the pandemic. So the thing wouldn't have happened if it couldn't have happened at 100 capacity. And that's why we're able to move forward with it like we are now.
That makes sense.
Which is so nice. I mean, I just went out last week for the first time to see a friend play. I don't think anyone was really masked, indoors, small little like kind of jazz club setting. And, it was relaxed. It's one of those things, I've been able to get myself in the mindset because I was really shut off for the last year, and it was just me in my house. and two of my close friends in town. And we were kind of our small group that we would be around each other unmasked. And so even after getting, my vaccines in, April or whatever, it was still like tiptoeing around. And I think I finally got in the mindset recently where I was like, shit, if I'm going to be in a room with 500 to 1,000 people here, in a month, which, my heart's beating a little fast thinking about it, but I'm like, I think I can go out and eat. I think I can go see my friend play. You know what I mean? They're telling us it's all right, so yeah, I think it's, I think there's still going to be a comfortableness in August with where different people are at, but yeah, everything's going to be full on.
That's awesome. Yeah. And this is kind of what Daryl and I said all along is we were talking about it around Thanksgiving time. Everybody should do what they're comfortable doing. And, if you want to wear a mask at a concert, do it. Why not?
Yeah.
I've seen way weirder shit at metal shows. I saw a kid reading a full-on spell book, a Dungeons and Dragons spell book on the floor of the TLA at a Dragon Force concert. Okay.
Yeah, that's just a good use of time.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Multitasker.
The guy was smart. So I've seen a lot at shows. So, I think it's one of those things where, the diehards are going to be there no matter what. And I think it's going to be a great environment. And Btbam has always had, a really excellent group of fans wherever I've seen them. There's a couple of assholes everywhere, but that's just life.
I know we were kind of, obviously everyone kind of was hoping that someone would be the first band to go out and kind of figure it out. And it kind of seems like we're one of the first. In our, a lot of the clubs we're going were the first gig back, especially that first week. So, it's not only a big thing for the band, the people coming to the show, but the staffs. It's all going to be kind of, tiptoeing and easing back in, but I feel comfortable that it's going to happen all right. So
I think so. We'll be there.
I'm excited.
And you will
I'm
not.
just excited the world is getting normal, man. Because let me tell you, you being locked up for over a year and a half at work. I got my first fist bump today at work, and it was just it's the most awesome thing ever. So like I can totally understand. You got that tiptoe hesitation that like kind of ease in. You like one of these, and then full boom. You're just like yes,
Yeah. I got to see some friends the other day that are in Disorder Assembly with me, and it was the first time I felt like I got to like hug, some of these guys I made this record with, and
Hug Life is Real.
August, it was really nice. So
that's great.
It's really good.
That's great. So you're getting ready, you're practicing, you're rehearsing. It's going to be 2 sets. I'm sure it's going to be some fan favorites on there. And like I said, I've been a longtime fan and longtime friend of Dusty's and Blake's, and it's been amazing to see you guys. Like I said, Grammy nominated Between the Bear to me. Like the length of your journey, and you're just like still putting out amazing record after amazing record, and no hints of stopping or slowing. So it's really great to see you guys be one of the first to get back out there and do it.
Yeah, it'll be really nice. Playing an older record, a record that kind of it's an interesting one for us. Thinking back on that time, and I actually haven't too much. I think it'll probably hit me when I start to relearn Swim to the Moon, which we haven't played in over a decade. I remember the last time we played it, it was in Bangkok in 2010. We did this just insane world tour that, it broke us, but we were young enough that it was okay to break us. I think that there were relationships that ended on it. There was just, we were broke by the time we got, but we did this whole thing for like 3 months, and we were just like shell shocked, like what the hell? And the whole rest of the year was so busy that it was at that point in our career back then in 2010, where it helped us kind of learn that, we could say no to some things, that we could structure a little bit better. We were starting to get just in, kind of the next phase of kind of being adults. If I was 26, 25, you know what I mean? So like you're just getting over the hump. Paul and Tommy were probably just in their 30s. And I think right after that, or right before that, we'd gotten our first manager. That was our last record on Victory Records. Like, he knew, Tony at Victory knew that we were starting to work with a manager, and that it was our last album, and that they were probably going to be gunning for him. And so he didn't really put a lot of promo into the record, and the fact that it got the feat that it did is pretty amazing, and just a testament to. I mean, we did tour a ton on that record, but I think to people either passing it around, word of mouth or whatever, but it's had its legs and it's lived on, and so it's fun to look back and celebrate it for what it is.
It's amazing, and I'll just say, and you don't have to comment on it if you don't want to, but it's been a clear difference as soon as you guys hooked up with Sumerian, like how much I saw a Btbam something elsewhere other than your social feeds. It was very clear that it was like you guys were getting the support you deserve and had earned, again from being on the road and doing all this stuff. And it's cool to see you guys really, killing it, basically.
For us, getting with Metal Blade after Victory was such a like relief and breath of fresh air. Because they seemed to really care about the thing that was between the Buried and Me and what we were doing, and it was so nice. It was just a short deal that we signed with them, and then so getting into the next phase after Coma Ecliptic, we're in the second record with Sumerian, and so it's all been kind of good after. After the Great Misdirect, for us kind of label wise, you know what I mean? It's a funny landmark for that, but, it's revisiting some of the music now, and most of it, I mean, we played all of it except Swim to the Moon, and I guess Desert of Song, really, quite a bit over the last 10 years, those songs come in and out quite a lot. And I remember, like, as far as the session went, which is interesting to think back on now, I just remember we had a couple 3 or 4 week-long get-togethers, and that we had the most of the record put together outside of maybe Swim to the Moon. It's only 5 songs. I mean, it's like our, Close to the Edge or something like that. You know what I mean? And we just knew that it was going to pack a punch. Is it 5 or 6? Maybe it's 6. But we knew it was going to pack a punch and that they were long guys. But I can feel, the maturity from Colors, and then obviously like a step after that with Parallax 2, that was another maturing process, and Coma and Automata. It's fun, like, to be able to get back into that world, learning the music, digging through the books and stuff. Kind of try to place where you were and then where you are now, and be like, whoa, like there's been a jump, and each one along the way is a jump from where you were, which is cool to see.
I think it's a natural, normal progression though. That when you follow, like, it's not too much of a shock to your system to go 2 or 3 albums back. Like, you're like, oh, okay, I see where they were headed here. And it's funny you brought up Close to the Edge, and Daryl, you gotta indulge me here for a moment. I'm about to be a nerd.
You should be.
So
I'm right there with you. Go for it.
The first band that I was, exposed to, that I like fell in love with, was Yes. My dad was my dad's favorite band growing up, and I had a chance to see them, I don't know, 5 or 6 times when they were still, like, towards the end, with still with John Anderson and Rick Wakeman, like that 35th anniversary tour and stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's ironically how I was exposed to Dream Theater. Was Dream Theater opening for them. But I always heard, little elements of that music in Btbam, and I wasn't quite
yeah.
sure where it was coming from. And then I come to find out, everybody kind of casually, but then when I was listening to your newer records, especially Disorder, it's like, oh wait, it's Dan. Like Dan's the huge Yes fan in the band. And they're one of those bands that, like, if you go and listen to them now with like modern ears, you're like, oh, they like did all this 45 years ago. Like, it's all, we're all just repeating what they did.
100%.
Like every prog band now.
On Close to the Edge, Fragile, and I think Drama. I mean,
Drama, yeah.
That's got some of the like real deal like progressive metal kind of stuff to it. Machine Messiah.
I was just gonna say, like, Machine Messiah. That's heavy as shit.
Unreal song.
Yeah.
Unreal. Like, that's such a good. Yeah.
And Steve Howe is such a. Daryl, I'm gonna send you some Steve Howe stuff. Like, if he was like 25 now and had a TikTok, he would be everyone's favorite guitar player.
Yeah, he was a master. I mean, on the nylon string and electric, him and Steve Hackett kind of had that thing both working for them, and both had interesting kind of like choppy styles. I mean, they weren't the most.
Well, they grew up that like folk style. And then
they weren't the most fluid, beautifully clean, but that it had like so much personality.
Yeah, they're it's one of those bands you like I said, you listen to them and then you follow down the line to Rush and bands like Dream Theater and then Btbam, and then I was listening to, I don't know, something on Sirius XM, and Hawken came on, and it was like new stuff, and I was like, oh, this sounds like, okay, it's just this, it's this ongoing, it's like the West Coast offense, Daryl. It's never going to go away. It's going to keep getting better.
Yeah. Everybody's going to throw their stone in, cast their stone in for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sticking with Disorder Assembly, a lot of that, and this is a compliment and coming from me as a musician mind, a lot of that sounds so natural and in the moment, like it's almost like it's improv or structured improv. How much of that was, improv, or how much of that it was like, this is what I'm going in to do?
Yeah, almost none of it existed like the week or two before we did it. The idea to do it came together very quickly. Walter, who plays sax and keyboards in the band, was also in Trioscapes with me. He had pretty much put together the first track, Spirit of the Dinosaurs, with some of the guys.
Great names,
and
too.
Really, that song especially has a couple written musical cues, and then it's different tones of kind of improv stuff around it, and then one of those cues will come in,
right,
and the band's in unison, and then it kind of goes back out into a different feel that was kind of like the general idea of was discussed before. But what's on record, is, like that first song that was Spirit of the Dinosaur is what we started with. And we maybe did 3 or so takes. And, the first one was the first time that we all played it together. There was no rehearsal. It was just in the studio. And,
wow.
And it's so cool to listen to, because when we got it all mixed and everyone kind of had their place in the mix out of the 8 of us.
The mix is awesome, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, Chris killed it. Yeah. One of the big things that we had to figure out with the mix, because it's 2 drum sets, organ, all this is that the bigness was just going to come from 8 people. He didn't have to mix the drums like big rock drums, or have the bass be big and boomy, loud, distorted, wild. It was just like, let's just hear everything, and it's just going to be massive that way. And there wasn't, on the whole record, there's maybe like 6 or 7, charted riffs. or whatever. The last song, I had a stack of horn parts that were generated around, with the organist playing. And, that was maybe the only thing that was on paper that we had to like pass around and kind of like look at and talk through before going at it. So yeah, for me, for a lot of those guys, what's fun is everyone's got different playing backgrounds. There's guys that are in jazz, kind of more like, Afrofusion stuff, kind of gospel stuff, all over the place. But it was, a lot coming from this world of free improvised music. And of course, me coming from something different, but I tiptoed in that before with Trioscapes, and was at a place where that was something that I really needed, was to have something that was off the page, that was more about cueing in the room and all the sounds and playing off of people, not overplaying. Very interesting, very different. And I love it. And I'm very curious to see what it's like playing live this week. It'll be technically we only played together 2 days. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling you before we got on, I really love that record. And I was listening to it in my car today, and then when I got home, I put it on through my PC with my really good monitors, my interface, and the high res on Spotify. And I was like, oh, there's a lot going. This is rich. This is, and you know what? I was also thinking, and again, this is in my mind, it's a compliment. Is, you throw a little marimba in there, and this is like Frank Zappa. Like there's some like real and again, not saying this because you're sitting here with us. There's some like Zappa level genius going on there that I can't quite put my finger on, but it's like really draws me into the record. And the way that it's mixed, it's like you're in this world where all this is going on around you, and it's like just like I was because then I looked up. I had to look up the instrumentation because I'm like, how many? Because I'm listening to it, I'm like, and then I started to put it all together. I was like, oh, this must have been done live because, like I thought it was just maybe a couple guys, and dude, it's wild.
Yeah, 8 guys, 4 horns. There's 4 horns, 2 drums, bass, and organ. One of the horn players, Walter, is playing synthesizer. Sam, organist, was also playing some synth. The alto sax player, Casey, also plays what's called an iwi, which is an electronic woodwind instrument. Made famous in the 80s by the sax player Michael Brecker and a lot of guys. But he...
So he's like running into like MIDI? You can run it in as like a MIDI instrument?
You can, yep. And it's got its own sound banks built in and stuff. I mean, it's honestly like a synthesizer that he can control with his, his embouchure like he would his horn. And the fingerings are just what he knows on horn. They correlate with, the alto. The tuba player also was doing just a myriad of weird sounds, electronics. And then Jared is the tuba guy. And then Eli Freibush was doing, he played 3 different sax on the record. He did some soprano on Lizards of Boz, which is such a cool,
I love that name,
ethereal sound. And then he did some tenor and some baritone. And it was like incredible amount of space that he covered. It was really, really, really great.
Speaking of tuba, you ever hear of a guy named Wolf?
Just Wolf, no.
Okay, so a couple years ago, I saw Buckethead, who again, talk about a genius, right?
Yeah,
that dude's awesome, and also multi-talented. And he had this guy Wolf opening for him. I think it was like Wolffe, big burly guy with a tuba and a pedal board, and he had like a loop station and all these effects pedals, and he would like make a noise into the horn of the tuba, and then like use a microphone to record the loop, and then he was building these entire songs with a looper and just a tuba, and it was amazing. And sadly I've lost track of Wolf. I'm gonna have to look him up after this. But
Wolf. I love it. That's great.
It's pretty cool.
Really
You'd probably dig it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, man. So Nightmare Scenario, on the other hand, when I listen to that, I hear so much of what I, come to learn is a lot of your building blocks in your songwriting for Between the Buried and Me. And it's kind of like, anytime I've had, the pleasure of hearing Dusty, just him messing around on any guitar he picks up, like there's a certain element of him that I hear that my ear focuses in on when I listen to, like in the rhythm. And then it's the same thing with your playing and then by the time you add Blake, what he's doing in there, and Paul, it's just like, it's there's so much going on. But Nightmare Scenario, I'm really like, oh, okay, this is Dan right here. This is his thing. And then again, to find out that you're, I thought that was you doing the vocals, and then I'm like, man, this is awesome. And it's like I could imagine any variety of pieces of that being an elements of Between the Buried and Me music. It's again,
yeah, kind of, yeah. For me, it's funny because it's actually a breeding ground of like building songs actually in untraditional ways than I'm used to, and I know Tommy uses his solo projects in the same way. I love all the different ways that I get to write music, whether it's on the free end of the spectrum with just a couple written things, the like far end that is Between the Buried and Me, Nova Collective, that is like so densely arranged, beat by beat by beat, counterpoints, everything charted out. I love that. I love that. And Nightmare Scenario is somewhere different. It's a different like sub level somewhere where I really, really birthed that stuff from experimentation. It's really like
it's got a heaviness. It's got a heaviness to it that it kind of reminds me of like how I feel when I listen to like Steven Wilson records, a certain amount of his records, where it's there's something going on there that's emotionally thought out, if that makes sense.
For anything, any of that stuff is writing lyrics was weird to me the first time I was doing it, and I really just kind of shut off and started, you sing a melody, like I got melodies, and then, a word just pops in your head, and then just kind of stream of conscious going for it. And that's how I've always operated, I guess, in the handful of years since I've been doing Nightmare stuff. But when I stand back, I see what it is, and I'm just like, oh Christ, that's going on inside me, and it all comes from a familiar and similar place. And it's nice. It's nice to get something off your chest. It's really interesting how by the time even, you're done with a song or an EP, album, whatever, you could be in a different place and feel a different way. But it doesn't change that this thing was inside of you and that you worked through it, and, sometimes I'm shocked at, to me, sometimes I feel like the directness of what comes out. But it serves its purpose, for me. So.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's like something for every part of your creative spectrum, between Btbam to Trioscapes to Disorder, Nova Collective. I mean, it's like you can hear your thread through all of it, but everything's a little different and out there.
Yeah,
in the best way.
Actually, right now I'm finishing. I think I told you maybe before we recorded that I have a Nightmare EP that's being mastered right now, and one that I'm finishing, kind of assembling parts from some other people that I've been singing with. And the one that's getting mastered is interesting because I'm not going to say what it is yet, but it's none of my words, and it's basically like I've described it as like a sci-fi folk album. But it's adaptations of of other words. And that was really interesting because I could shape what the music was based off of, you know, the little couple lines or chunk of paragraph or whatever. And again, just a totally different, weird way of working that I kind of never had before. Also, I was just really, really playing for years a lot of, you know, fingerstyle, acoustic and plucking around. And then during the beginning of the pandemic, my mom's a classical guitarist, if I wanted her guitar that was built for her by a luthier in Pittsburgh before she started grad school. And I was just like, are you kidding me? You know, as the guitar I was playing Nirvana on as a kid, you know, just grabbing and trying to play Penny Royalty or whatever. And, you know, I was like, I can't take your guitar, but she was getting she's retired. She's getting a nicer guitar. And so that really pushed me over as far as being like, okay, I'm getting this nylon string. Now I'm writing a folk album, whatever, you know.
It's on.
It's on.
It's on, and it is very different. But yeah, I really love using whatever nightmare scenario is as a ground to really explore new concepts, new things. And I, you know, there's things that I learned from doing my EP a couple of years ago, Beyond What Is Real, that I can see the effect of on the new Between the Buried and Me record. You know, it's always been like that. You know, if we go back to Great Misdirect, when we wrote that album, I was coming off writing the first record with my band Orbs, and I learned so much from our keyboardist Ashley and our interplay, where we wrote that album right as I was coming out of writing Colors. So I was like, just like creatively on like 10 and just like, oh my God, we did all this new shit. Like, I'm so excited. What's next?
Bursting
and then I met
with
this
ideas.
person who was this like brilliant classical pianist who, you know, we were challenging each other in different ways, where I was in such an expansive world, and I was like, we could take this small idea and write, you know, a 15-minute long song, which we did. But she was very good at honing in my energy, whereas I was good at like expanding her, and we met somewhere in the middle, and I learned so much just from that collaboration of songwriting, and definitely brought that energy into Great Misdirect. And then, you know, everything always builds on everything, which is what I love so much about constantly playing with different people. And even if it's a project that I'm doing myself, just being in a different mindset, writing in a different way, hearing things differently, that whenever you come back around and you're working, you know, on another Orbs record, another Between the Buried and Me record, whatever, that you've gone through this journey in the couple years before, and there's always something new you've learned that you're bringing in.
Dan, how cool is it to have that stream of consciousness come out and you be on fire creatively, but you meet that one person that can like bring you in, but also build you up? Like that's awesome. That's
it is awesome. And I've gotten it so many times over the last 16 years. I mean, meeting the guys and meeting like, you know, like Paul and Blake, you know, and Tommy and Dusty, you know, but especially like there was something about the world that I was coming in, where I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, where I was in bands since I was 12, and I moved to North Carolina when I was 20. And it was always hard. It was always hard to get the pieces just right, you know, where everyone synced up and everyone lined up, and to be able to come down and all of a sudden, you know, feel like I could put something on paper and Paul and Dusty could play it better than I could, you know, on guitar. I'd be like, oh my God, it's finally happening. You know, it's finally happening. And I could discuss like very direct, you know, kind of depth rhythmic concepts with Blake, and they could happen, and then they would get better. I was just like, okay, this is happening. This is a big step. Writing with Ashley was big. When I started Trioscapes with Walter and Matt, it was like a whole nother level where, I was feeding off this energy of Walter, who was so into
Shreds, man.
yeah, the free, the energy, and just he was just like a ball of energy. We'd show up to, we were playing like a record store or something. He would just be like, "This is gonna kick ass. This is gonna be like the best show." And I'm like, "You're right. This is gonna be awesome."
Dude, when I saw you guys at that bar, I had to look it up because I couldn't remember the name of the club. It's changed.
I remember that. Yeah.
It's changed names a bunch of times, but I remember it was a Thursday, and it was like, I don't know, 14 people there. There was like not a whole lot of people when it started, but you guys just ripped, and I was like,
yeah,
there he is. There's his 6 foot tall Ampeg rig or whatever, like,
yeah,
and,
oh my God.
and like seeing you guys, and then years later when I'm loading into clubs like that down there, it's like, God, yeah, this is what I understand. It's the bug that you get, and when you're passionate about the music and you're playing with people that energize you, there's no, and I always thought, and I'm a drummer, obviously I got the drums behind me here, but I always wanted to play saxophone, man. I always thought that was the coolest. Like, I always just thought there was something so cool about somebody that can rip a saxophone. Does that?
Well, we're children of the 90s. Like, for me, I started on sax when I was like 9. My mom was a music teacher. And, you turn on the TV and the president played saxophone.
The
he
Simpsons.
was on Arsenio Hall.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that's the coolest looking thing. I need to play that. I don't know what it is. I don't know anything about it. It's gold.
It is gold.
Like, it's got the shades on.
Right.
Looks cool.
And then like my mom is a big, like, she was a big Bruce Springsteen, the E Street Band, so like I was always hearing Clarence Thomas rip it, and thankfully I got to see him with Bruce when he was still alive. But
that's so cool.
Yeah, it's like some people, when it's done at its best. What's the kid's name? He goes by Saxel Rose on Instagram. He played with
That's a great name.
What's not Polini, Intervals. I saw him doing a song with Intervals at a show.
That's so funny.
A couple months ago.
And that was another big learning thing. I mean, I remember as soon as Walter and I were sharing some stuff together, he plays tenor sax. Tenor sax notes on the clef on the staff are different than a normal C instrument. He's a B flat instrument. So technically, this is horrible for anyone listening. I'm sorry.
Yeah, for the audio only version.
What is his like middle C is actually written as a B flat, it's a step off. So for me, I'm transposing from bass clef into treble, and then I'm going from there and transposing again. It was so much, but then also learning how a horn works, and the kind of way that you have to write sax lines almost more like linearly and not with like big skips like you would on the piano or on guitar, the way you can move around with intervals and stuff, like to play a low octave on a sax and then jump up, and move with it is like, it's virtually impossible. It's like so hard. So Walter helped me really learn how to like write for those horns. And that's helped a lot, honestly, over the years. Even if it's just having people play on Voice of Trespass by Between the Buried and Me, or obviously doing the Disorder Assembly record, being able to communicate with the different horn players there. You learn all these random skills over the years.
I want to ask you about your kind of connection with Blake, and as a drummer with my band Extractus, shout out to Big Jim. He's the best bassist. With all due respect to other bassists I've played with some great musicians, but for me, he's the bassist I clicked with. Where even after we didn't play for 4 years recently, we were right there, and it's like it goes beyond that connection between bassist and drummer goes beyond just the music. Usually, like there's like an unspoken communication that's going on there. Not only on the stage, but just usually it for me, in my experience, it's kind of spilled over into life. What's that like for you with Blake? Do you experience any of that?
Live, So when Trioscapes started, you know, Blake and I had been in Between the Buried and Me at that point. We joined at the same time, like 6 or 7 years, you know. And so I started Trioscapes, and we set up differently on stage where, you know, you saw us live. I was looking across at Walter, he's looking at me, and then Matt's in our peripheral. And I just fell in love with that so much. Seeing the stage like that, not really playing off the crowd, playing off the energy of what's happening here, that I was just like, this is it, you know? And so I started setting up like that for everything, you know. I'll play like that on Sunday with Disorder Assembly, you know? And so it's great because, you know, at a Between the Buried and Me show, you know, Blake is just right here for me. You know, I'm looking right across the stage. He's right there. All I got to do is look up, you know, and we'll see each other. And, you know, if that's something like, you know, locking in and nailing apart, or if someone biffs apart, you know, between us, you know, we look at each other and there's usually like you know, and it's funny though, because it's like, probably no one heard it, you know, but it's just the two of us, you know.
There's at least 3 kids in the YouTube comments that heard it for sure. Exactly. but we're right there, and that's always so nice, and I love that. I think that's a cool thing for rhythm section to have their own little like pocket, you know, on the stage. The other guys are up at the front, they're doing their thing. We're back in the zone, just laying it down. And you know, the rhythmic quality in Between the Buried and Me is interesting. When we did, let's see, I think Colors was probably the last record where, as we were writing the guitar parts, you know, me and Paul and Dusty and Tommy, whoever was writing the stuff, and we're tossing it all together, arranging the songs with all of us on guitars, that I would then immediately be writing my bass parts. I stopped that on that album because so often Blake would come in and write a drum part, and it would almost have like completely different accents than I had on bass. And sometimes I'd go in and I'd change my accents and I'd play off of his thing, you know, because it would be a cool rhythmic phrase. Or, you know, if it was a part that I had just so densely written, I just found a way to hear it and lock in, hear where everything falls, and just lock in. Now, from that point on, I really think, starting with Misdirect, I remember it distinctly with Parallax 2, but probably maybe with Misdirect, writing all the songs on guitars like we were doing, letting Blake do his drum composition, and then coming in and doing bass on the tracks. And so when that happened, you know, from that point to now, I can see the track how it is. I've digested it as, you know, a composer, and then I can come back as just the bassist, and I rehear the songs totally differently from my bass perspective. And a lot of that ends up being playing off of these different rhythms and stuff. You know, I would almost call them counter rhythms, you know, that sometimes Blake has created, sometimes we lock into a thing together, based off what's happening in guitar land. And I love that system. I think it's great, you know, because it really helps me just lock in from a writing stance, as, you know, if I'm writing on guitar or keys, whatever, just worry about the structure of the song, what it is, and then come back afterwards as the bassist and just zoom in. Now, that was stressful for our new record because this is a little spoiled. It's fucking long. It's a goddamn long album. And so, and it was written throughout such a long time that, and things kept subtly changing, subtle arrangement changes because it was such a long time, that when it really got to the end, I was really just like, holy shit. Like, I was done. I was like spent writing and hearing these songs. I was like, need a cigarette.
I gotta write these bass parts. You know what I mean? Like, and there was,
I'm gonna have to play this
in the studio. Yeah, there was stuff in the studio that we were still hashing out, me and Paul and Dusty, and bass parts that I was just getting under my fingers and resketching as they were tracking guitars. It was like right up to it. I mean, whew, it was a lot. So maybe sometimes that system isn't the best, but usually it's nice and it's fun because it allows me to hear just the rhythm section. And there's one song in particular on the new record, obviously, that doesn't make sense to talk about, but that I so locked in with Blake, and it's almost one of my favorite songs because I could play it with nothing else, just him. It would just be me and him playing off each other, and I wouldn't need anything else because I so specifically wrote it off the drums, which sometimes is weird in reference to the guitars, but it's just like, there's such a solid rhythm thing going on. Yeah.
When I hear it,
cool.
I'll think about this conversation. I'll go,
Yeah, right.
that's cool. That's what he was talking about.
Song.
Yeah, that's it right there. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, look, I can't wait to hear it. When we had Dusty on a few months ago, he was saying same kind of things that real excited about what it is, and everybody's going to be into it when it comes out. And
hopefully, I don't really give a shit if anyone likes it or not. But
that's the right attitude, brother.
I know. We just wrote our asses off for a bunch of months, and we're dead by the end of the year. We recorded right up to the holidays. I mean, we weren't really posting in the studio because it just seemed like there was no fucking point. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and also
we
at
didn't
that
know
time,
when it would come out.
Right?
And we were in the studio until maybe the 21st of December. So, like, I remember just crawling into my cave and being like, I'm done for the year, into the new year. It really took me a while to like regenerate and kind of come back to life.
Well, it was cool seeing you guys in the basement. I saw a couple posts here and there, and again, you saying you're down there the 21st of December. I think that was the day we started doing our record. We were down there over Christmas, and we got we got to sample Winston-Salem's finest Chinese buffet on Christmas Day. It was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
wow,
by the movie theater.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was a good time. But
Jamie works so much. That's crazy.
He's the man. He's been on the show. He was one of our first guests, and
good.
Shout out to Jamie King. He is the man. He's got a great you just want to be around him, and he makes you want to try things, and he's just encouraging, like, shit, yeah, man, let's do it. You're like, all right, give me the fucking gong, let's go.
It's such a special skill set that an engineer producer has to have, because my buddy Chris, who did the Disorder record here, is the same way with him and Jamie. It's just like you can put them in a room with someone stranger, and they're gonna like get on with them. That's such a special, like,
and not get frustrated
characteristic to have. Oh, it's crazy.
Well, it's to have somebody like that can pull out the gems too. They got to be open, and Jamie's open. Like, it's like, yeah, let's do that now.
It's so true.
As long as it's harmonized,
yeah, and when you're in the studio, you might as well just try whatever. If it sucks, you just have to delete it.
Yeah, it's not like you're paying for tape.
Yeah, right. Yeah, oh shit, yeah. I think about that a lot with film. I've got actually tonight I've got my film club that I've been doing for over a year, but with my friend. And it's been so nice during the pandemic because he's in Austin and we do it afar. Talk beforehand, talk afterwards, big like reading into it. Just it's just like, I love having talks that are about music, but usually in the other arts. I love talking about film. I love talking about actual like art, like paintings, collage, whatever. And it just fuels me. It gets me so excited, and creatively like turned on, ready to go. Just talking about an art form, dissecting something,
It's like me and Daryl breaking down Steven Seagal fight sequences. It just gets me.
It
gets me jazzed up. Yeah, I really like to analyze the the finer detail.
I love it.
What kind of films in your film club? Like, what's kind of stuff?
We did a full film review of Paul Thomas Anderson recently, and my buddy had actually seen none, and he's a director himself, so it was kind of like he kind of sheepishly was like, I know I need to see these. And so that was everything from Hard Eight, Boogie Nights, Magnolia, all the way through, Phantom Thread. And actually, we finished with the short film he did for Tom York, the Anima or whatever, which was really cool, really, really cool piece that he did. Had really interesting choreography. It's some just like, killer, surreal looks to it. So that was the last big piece that we did. And we got some other stuff charted out that we're going to be venturing into, so we're trying to prep for the Dune movie to come out. So
you're a Dune fan?
For me, huge Dune fan. I got,
it's funny. My older brother is a huge Dune fan
right here.
And yeah. I got into it again, child of the 90s, the sci-fi miniseries. Daryl, did you?
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Daryl?
Yeah.
I'm fucking pumped for this movie to come out. And I know they keep pushing it back, but I'm there for it, dude.
Yeah, October 1st it's happening. For us, we wanted to watch a lot of Denis Villeneuve's films that we hadn't seen, and I had some blind spots and he had less, but so there's a couple that we're going to try to watch to get the vibe of, really, I feel like I'm sure the Blade Runner knowing that the guy that did Blade Runner 2049 was doing Dune, excited me the most, because there's such a meditative, slow, sunken
very methodical
in
pace.
Yeah,
and you read that,
but it's deliberate though.
Well,
it's deliberate in for just to heighten that creative aspect to it. You know what I mean? It really pulls you into that world. You need
it
that.
Does.
Yeah. It's like, what's the name of the guy that did he did Drive with Ryan Gosling, and then also
Nicholas Winding Refn. Yeah.
Only God Forgives. Like those, like that.
Yeah.
Listen, anybody listening to this podcast that's here for Between the Better, stop what you're doing. Go check out Only God Forgives. What a fucking film! Like, so much going on there, and you're like, is this dude banging his mom? What did he just like? Spoiler alert! What's going on here? I don't know.
Yeah. I love Neon Demon too.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, you should. That's the last proper film he did. He did a TV show for Amazon called Too Old to Die Young. It didn't get a lot of press, but it is like him on 10 as far as like pace. Like each shot is so gorgeous. Obviously, lots of neon lights. That's his thing.
Well, I feel like Drive heavily influenced everything now, to the point where every film or TV show has that shot of somebody standing there with an LED reflecting off half of their face. Like, that's, that was like the first time I saw that on film.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
What do you think about Mandy? Have you seen that? Nicolas Cage?
It's one of my favorite films of the last fucking forever. It's so creative. I think
it's genius. I love it.
Yeah, I love his first film too, Beyond the Black Rainbow, which is just totally out of control. It's I've never done drugs, but I just have to imagine that guy's captured what LSD is like. I can only imagine.
There's something about Mandy that, like, the first time I saw that, it stuck with me. Like, it's just like I felt like I was wearing it. And Daryl and I, we love Nick. I love Nicolas Cage to my core. He is legitimately
Pig. I'm so excited about Pig,
dude.
Holy shit.
He is legitimately my favorite actor, and I've seen damn near every one of his films. And back in the day when I was sick, with Netflix with the discs, you could build up your queue. And somebody made a Chrome extension called Cage Flicks. And it just automatically added every one of his movies. So I just ran through them, starting with Raising Arizona. And he's just he has like two speeds, which is like completely over the top in a awkward way, and then like completely over the top in the most perfect way. Like some movies you think are like what was that? A Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, like that Bad Lieutenant remake. It's like, is he the only one that was taking this thing serious? Like, it's an incredible performance. And then everybody else is like, and then you see, there was one where he goes, I don't know what it's called, like Bad Parents or something, where the parents go mad and they try to kill their kids.
Yeah.
It's
I
his
yeah,
finest.
and then you have something like Adaptation that is just
Right.
more in like the awkward humor, but like brilliant like method deep in there. Like, yeah, he's real deal.
He is the realist, and I think he's doing a show for Showtime based on the Tiger King, where he
You're
plays
right.
Yeah. Joe Exotic, which is going to be again.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And just like
Have you seen Wally World yet?
no, it's on my
wanna
to-do
see
list. That looks good. It's
Yeah,
like Five
I
Nights at
haven't
Freddy's kind of thing. I think like basically Critters. He's like a maintenance guy at a Chuck E. Cheese type
Yeah.
location, and then
Right. Yeah.
the animatronics come to get him.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, I
it's-
haven't seen it.
Perfect premise. Did you see what was it? Colors Out of Space.
Yeah, great. That was
What
one
did
of
you
the
think
last
it-
movies.
That talk about a movie that affected me and Daryl. We were like,
Oh my
what
gosh.
the fuck did I just watch? Like, like that was, woo.
That was one of the last ones I saw in the theater before the pandemic. It was great. Yeah,
That must have been an
I loved
experience in the theater on a big screen.
It was, yeah. I saw it. There's an Alamo Draft House in
nice.
Raleigh, so like a little over an hour away. And I actually went the other day. I went for the first time back. I saw the new Sparks Brothers documentary, which was incredible, about the band Sparks. And that was a lot of fun. It was great to be back in the theater, and especially that theater, which is so cool.
Well, I think you got The Matrix coming out in theaters, in December.
Yeah.
I don't want to know. A little bit leaked out about that. Who knows if it's.
I don't know anything. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
so,
I'm curious.
well, it's not a spoiler, but basically the premise is Trinity goes back into the Matrix, and she's like living her life with like a family in the Matrix, and then Neo just somehow comes back, and it's like a redo of the Matrix,
Oh, weird.
where he's like the Morpheus, like wake you up, like, and he's trying to get her back, and it sounds pretty interesting. And Neil Patrick Harris is
I
in it, so
remember
it's gotta be
so
good.
little of the third one. I remember so little of. So.
Don't go back to it. It's
I remember they got pretty convoluted. I remember, yeah.
they did. I
that-
feel like I don't know. I think they succumbed to network pressure or whatever from that was the explanation, was that the studio made them change things, and I don't know. It doesn't really hold. The second and third one don't really hold up as good as the first one.
That's too bad. Yeah.
I have that was like 15th anniversary Blu-ray or whatever that came out a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know we would have so much in common with avant-garde films, Dan. This is a great conversation.
Yeah.
But little the Color Out of Space. Boy, talk about a sticky situation.
That was the last film that director Richard Stanley did since The Island of Dr. Morneau in the 90s, which he was
That's the
actually
same guy?
booted from. Yeah,
Yeah, didn't he get
was
kicked out
actually
for some reason?
He was like booted from it. Yeah, I don't remember if it was something to do with Brando or if Brando fought for him, but whatever it was, I think he was so marred by the studio experience that he was just out, and this movie brought him back like so many years later. I mean,
Well, that's
at least.
it's a Lovecraft, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah, that's disturbing. But yeah, Mandy, and that's one that some people either think it's, like us, the greatest thing since sliced bread, or dog shit. And I don't quite.
I thought it was so creative.
It's one of his finest freakouts in any film. That scene when he is in the bathroom and he's drinking and he's just screaming, like, that's art.
Yeah. But the music's so beautiful under it. That score, Johan Johansson. Oh my god.
Well, if you talk about the cinematography, so many chances were taken, and it's beautiful in a way. You know what I mean? Tragically beautiful, but in a way that like it has. And Brother Jay, I know you agree. It has that lasting impression on you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
oof.
Oh, the way he blew out some of those colors.
Yeah.
The
Oh my
red.
God, yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
But then there's that great scene of them on the lake, where it's like this overhead shot and the ripples in the water are just perfectly spaced out. Oh man.
You could tell they took their time to perfectly like and every single shot is.
They built that cabin.
Did they really?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense if you look at it. I mean, the structure of it looks so like that it was made with like
that makes sense.
Doors and stuff, but it's incredible. It's so cool.
And it's just one of those ones that flies under the radar. And you know, I got my wonderful fiance supports my Nicolas Cage habit. She got me that on Blu-ray. It was great.
Good.
Yeah, I gotta try and talk her into this Wally World one. That'll be tough. I'll have to sneak that in somewhere. It's an action comedy. But Dan, what is the best way to keep up with you? You know, as we wind down here, you've got so much stuff going on. What's the best way for everybody to get all that is Dan Briggs?
Yeah, I struggle with like self-promotion in a way. But I guess you know, Instagram is the best. Dan Briggs Music. You know, it's so much to keep up with, but yeah, I'm trying to stay afloat on there, and yeah, that's the spot. That's the spot, I guess. That's the spot.
And you've got Disorder Assembly debuting live this weekend. Where are you guys playing?
So, you know, we're playing an event on Sunday downtown in Greensboro. It's outdoors in the park, Greensboro, North Carolina, to commemorate one of the drummers actually on the record, Scott Johnson. He passed away in January. And so it's the show is a celebration of Scott's musical playing through a bunch of groups that he was in or associated with. Disorder's closing out the night. As far as the guys were concerned, they thought that was the only professionally recorded capture of Scott, which is incredible. He's just like a totally gifted drummer, percussionist, African percussionist. He made his own percussion toys, all sorts of stuff. And I only met him on the first day in the studio with Disorder. And so, you know, I was living for months with his playing, these takes, you know, getting it mixed, this and that, just being like, what, you know, incredible. And so the show is, you know, it's tied in with a group in Greensboro called GC Stop. That's Guilford County, where we live, solution to the opioid problem or whatever. And they're, you know, we've been raising money, you know, for overdose prevention education, that's all through this organization and these guys. And they've raised almost 10 grand, which is incredible.
Wow. That's great, man.
Great. We'll have, you know, it's a heavy day, like a first show back, first show with a new band, playing really in honor of, you know, someone that's not there. But really, like, I saw some of the guys yesterday, you know, and it was all good vibes, you know, and everyone's just excited to be able to play music with each other. And I think it's the first time that I think a lot of people in Greensboro are going to be getting out to really like celebrate kind of being back and seeing live music. So it's going to be a good, exciting, positive thing, you know.
That's great, man. That sounds like an excellent evening of music. And you know, final question for you, man. What can people expect at a Btbam in the coming months here? Anything?
Yeah, if we survive this double set 2.5 hour insanity that we're going on for like 6.5, 7 weeks, then
you can do it, Dan. You can do it.
I know. I know at least, I mean, it's not a spoil, but that's all we're doing for the year. We're doing that gig. And then, you know, there's plans to just, you know, get it in movement, you know, getting, hopefully to other places in the world. I mean, obviously not everywhere is where we are. We're very thankful. You know, you might've seen, we had to cancel our Canadian dates.
Right.
It's like there was a chance that they'd be, you know, fully open 100% by then, but that it was too risky from the promoters for us. Like if it got to like the week before and it still wasn't able to happen, that would have left us with 4 or 5 days just stranded,
sitting around,
you know, in America, just losing money. That would have been terrible. So we rebooked those shows with some American shows, and it stinks, but like the places like Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, there's some of our favorite places to go. Toronto's probably our best market in the whole world. So obviously we're going to try to do something in the new year up there. And hopefully we can get to Europe. Hopefully when the pandemic started, I mean, we were in South America for the first time.
Right.
And so that was cool to check off, but it was a fucking weird time to be out of the country.
Yeah.
And we were in Chile, Santiago, the night that the NBA shut down. I was watching the game. We had a day off. I was watching the game. I had all these vegan empanadas. I had a feast. I was so excited. And
You're
then
making me hungry, Dan. You're making me hungry.
I know. It's always dinner time for me too. And then it got shut down. I was watching that game. I watched Mark Cuban see it on his phone and tell the other players. I was just like, oh my God, what is happening? And we were supposed to go to Buenos Aires. 2 days later, they closed their borders. So we were just like, oh my God, we got to get home. What is going on? So it'd be nice to get back down there under, a little bit more normal, circumstances. So yeah, it's really, obviously it's dependent on where the world is in 2022, but at least for this year we get to do this tour. We'll have some new music, and I'll be releasing, I want both of the things, Nightmare Scenario, I want to get out by the end of the year because I need to start next year totally clean.
You got to start with a fresh slate, man. That's the way to do it.
Fresh slate. So yeah,
that's
absolutely.
awesome, man. Well, Dan, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. And I'll tell you what, when Pig comes out, we'll have to have you back on, and we'll do a deep, dive into. We'll do a movie review. We'll only talk about Nick Cage's finest work. So
absolutely, I love it. Yeah, we can do a top 10 or something.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great, man. That'd be great. Dan Briggs, my man, be safe, and we'll see you down the road in a few weeks, brother.
Thanks, guys.